Well, hello and welcome to the Massa International YouTube channel, where we talk about all things moving to Spain, buying a property in Spain, all the things you need to think of and plan, and meet the people who can help you to achieve whatever dream you have of being in Spain. And we're going to kick off today with a partner of Massa International from GetSpanishResidency.com, and I'd like to introduce you to Alex Radford. Got lots of questions for you, specifically about visas that are required for non-Brits and the different options and such. So I'm going to be picking your brains on that.
Delighted.
But before I do, we're going to head into our featured properties of the week section. So I've got a couple of properties I want you to see first before we dive in and pick Alex's brains. And first up is a property we just listed, which is in the Villa Martin area, which is part of the Orihuela Costa. So we're talking about 35 minutes south of Alicante and about half an hour north of Murcia, around 5 minutes to 10 minutes drive from the coast. So let's have a look at this property. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, semi-detached bungalow, and this is on the market for €242,000, which is about £202,000, coming fully furnished, fully equipped, ready to move into. So let's take a look at the video. So yeah, great property that one will go very quickly, I suspect. So, but we have another property. We're always going to have two properties to feature each week, and the next one is in a place that I know you're very familiar with, which is Ciudad Quesada. This is a modern 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom penthouse property with a beautiful rooftop solarium, and this property is on the market for €309,000, which is about £265,000 on the current exchange rates. And this property again is offered fully furnished, fully equipped, ready to move into. So let's take a look at this one. So that's two great properties from the many that we have. Don't forget, you can see all the latest properties that we list, new and resale, on massainternational.com. But let's not forget why we're here. We're here to learn about getting residency in Spain if you want to make a permanent move and you're from outside the EU, like the UK is now. So Alex, tell us a bit about yourself and your story and how you arrived in Spain.
Sure, Paul. So my parents moved to Spain in 1981. Spain wasn't a member of the EU then. They joined in 1985. And my parents kind of just came out then and set up a business. And it was a kind of very pioneering and entrepreneurial of my parents. And they eventually ended up selling property as well. So they were selling property, and then the family moved back to the UK in '92. That's when I went to university. So I grew up in Spain, went to Spanish high school, speak fluent Spanish. And then, went to university in Norwich, and I did law with European legal systems. Spent a year at Spanish University in Salamanca. And then I started practicing as a lawyer after doing some traveling around the world. So I practiced as a lawyer in Exeter in '99. And then as a fluent Spanish speaker, I was doing lots of things Spanish related. And I got a job offer to come back to Spain in 2003. So I couldn't resist the sunshine and the blue skies, because you always miss those, when you haven't got them. And I didn't think twice about that. I moved out to Spain with my wife, and we bought a plot of land. We built a house, which was great. And then since then, the business has evolved. We've bought and sold different properties. And then 14 years ago, we set up My Law in Spain. And My Law in Spain, GetSpanishResidency.com is part of My Law in Spain. After Brexit, we saw that there was an opening for specialist residency services online. So we set up the GetSpanishResidency.com website, all things related to visas and residencies. And My Law in Spain, we've got 6 offices. We've got 2 up here in the Costa Blanca, 1 in Ciudad Quesada, 1 in Javier, 3 in the Costa del Sol, and 1 in Almería and Oaxaca. And it's all good, no regrets.
Well, covering all sides of Spain, which is great. I mean, from our point of view, for a number of years now, we've been putting our clients who need residency to you, and to be very grateful for getting that sorted, because it's a tricky thing to take on yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. There's a lot of paperwork. It can be overwhelming, and especially if it's moving house as well. So they're typically setting up in their home country, applying for the residency here, buying a new property. We can help them with that and make it easier. It doesn't mean it's not going to be less. It doesn't mean it's not going to be stressful, because moving house is one of the most stressful things you can do. But moving country is probably up there as well. So it is important. We do act for clients with their visas and buying the property. So it's a tailored service, and it all ties in nicely. Yeah,
an integral part of the team that, when you're thinking about moving to Spain or even just buying a second home, it's about building the right team. You need a good agent that's going to be able to help you find the right spot where you want to live or have a home. Of course, find the right property, but there are other really important elements to it, like residency, lawyer, currency, perhaps financing if it's needed. So it's about putting that team together, and that's what we do. We manage that process and get you the right members of the team to help you with that. So tell us a bit about the process. We're talking about the non-lucrative visa to start with, which is the common one for people that are retiring to Spain, right?
Yeah. So the non-lucrative visa basically means that you're retiring to Spain to live here. You're not allowed to work. That's the key difference with the NLV. You're not allowed to work in Spain with that visa, okay? And you've got to apply for the visa from your home Spanish consulate, okay? So, for example, in the UK, there's 3. There's 1 in Manchester, there's 1 in Edinburgh, and there's one in London. And basically, our team of specialist visa and residency advisors would help you collate all the documents, prepare your file, go along to the appointment at the consulate, present all of those documents, and then basically obtain your visa. And what the visa goes into the passport. Once you've got that visa in the passport and you come to Spain, that visa is valid for 365 days. You come to Spain, we would then book an appointment for the clients at the local police station to apply for their TIE card. And the TIE card is basically the Spanish residency card with a photo. So it's basically 2 stages, Paul. It's first dealing with all the visa residency process in your home country, and then coming to Spain and getting that foreigner's identification card, the TIE.
Yeah, because there's a number of documents that are required and translations that are required of those documents.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you really add the value, because one stamp in the wrong place, one thing not in order, can disrupt the whole.
It can slow the process. You're absolutely right. So, typically speaking, if you've got a married couple, then you've got to prove that they're married. So you need a marriage certificate that needs to be stamped with apostille of The Hague. So that has to be arranged. If you've got birth certificates and you're bringing children over to Spain and they're minors under the age of 18, you need birth certificates as well. So there's and then obviously the other documents, for example, you need a clean criminal record certificate. You've got to prove that you've got sufficient monies in the bank to live off. And you need a Spanish address and your UK address as well. So there's a series of documents that need to be prepared, and they can go out of date. So you've got to apply for those and time it all in with the process.
So you're going to get those documents from the person who's moving, who needs the visa, check them that they're all compliant and ready to go to the consulate.
Yeah.
And so really it should be a smooth process from there on. Once you've gathered everything together, had it checked, that's the 90% of it, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's, the most important thing is, basically, I would say it takes about 1 or 2 months to collate the documents. And then depending on how busy the consulate is, it could take 1 or 2 months or more for them to process it, okay? So at different times of the year, there are peaks and troughs with the consulates, and they may take longer or shorter timescales, yeah.
And when do you think someone should start that process? Let's take 2 examples. One, they're buying a property, they found a property in Spain and it's ready to move into. And then the second one, we may be looking at a property that's going to be delivered in a year in the case of many new properties.
Yeah.
When do you suggest, A, having the initial conversation with you, and B, start that process?
I'd say as soon as someone has decided that they want to move to Spain or buy a property in Spain, they should be talking to a lawyer and a residency specialist, okay? So we've got a team of residency specialists and obviously the conveyancing lawyers. And we work together to ensure that smooth process. The moving from one country into another, for example, the timing is important. So tax residency in Spain, when you spend more than 183 days in Spain, you become a tax resident. So, it would be quite advised if someone's selling and in Spain we get taxed on the sale of our main residence, unless you're over the age of 65 and you've been a resident for more than 3 years. So if someone's selling their property in the UK, to avoid a potential capital gains tax liability here, they should time their move carefully. So for example, sell up the property in the UK, say November, and move to Spain at the beginning of the tax year in Spain, which runs from January to December, in January. So you won't have any CGT liability for the sale of your main UK property. So I would be saying to someone now, sell your property in the UK, start the process. That's going to take you 2 or 3 months to collect the documents, and then move out to Spain next year. And then, so I'd say 2 to 4 months beforehand. What we would do, Paul, is we would put a power of attorney in place for the clients. So a power of attorney is a document that authorises us to act for them in the conveyance, not to kind of manage any of their affairs in the UK. That's an enduring power of attorney. It's a power of attorney to buy a property in Spain, to open a bank account, and apply for their NIE numbers, which are their Spanish tax numbers. So we'd put that in place as soon as possible. Get the power of attorney in place, get the NIEs, maybe open a bank account for them if they want to transfer monies over. And then basically help them with the visa process, and then purchase the property afterwards or during. Some people buy the property and then move out to it,
Yeah. And what the feedback we have from clients, many of which have gone through this process with you, is what's been really good is you've kept them on a timeline. So you've told them, right, next week we need to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
2 weeks time we're going to be doing this. So it just takes it's one massive thing that clients can be led on, and they don't have to worry about, as you say, the whole process of moving to Spain is enough to take on. So this
absolutely, there's a lot involved in moving homes, let alone moving countries.
Yeah, right. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, I've seen a lot on social media. There seem to be a lot of sort of administrators about at the moment. People that are offering to do NIE numbers mainly, and other things. My concerns are, are these represented by a real lawyer? Are they coming under the umbrella of a real lawyer? Are they a real lawyer themselves? What do you feel about it? What are the potential pitfalls of not using a lawyer, both for residency or purchasing a property versus an administrator? Because this is something that we're seeing a lot of.
It's a great point. I mean, we do get contacted by clients who have applied for their visa and that it's rejected. And they ask us if we can assist with appeal. And we won't touch it because they might have made a serious mistake up front, provided some information to the consulate, which is irrecoverable. So it's so important to get it right up front. And then we've got, so I'm an English lawyer and a Spanish lawyer. We've got Spanish lawyers in the office, and then we've got paralegals. And of course, we do rely on our paralegals to do a lot of the work. And we've got administrators that client managers will help us with the residency process and make sure that clients stick to those timelines and get the documents to us. But it's all overseen by a lawyer, ultimately with professional liability insurance there. So if anything goes wrong, we've got insurance backing that up. A lot of these administrators or historians might not have that. Okay,
and that's where we've been concerned. It's like you're spending hundreds of thousands of euros on a property, to try and save 20, 50 euros on that. It can all fall apart on that. So it's just something that's
absolutely
that's come up.
When clients contact us, we confirm prices in writing. Okay, so we'll say to them, this is how much the process will cost, and of course you've got. It depends whether they're a married couple, single, individual, if they're bringing children or not. So the costs vary, and then on top of that, you've got translation costs, and you've got the visa fees. So it all adds up. But we will confirm those costs up front in writing to clients. And we haven't had a non-lucrative visa rejected, Paul. Every single one has gone through.
It's a big plus.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit you with a few quick fire questions now.
Okay.
Let's see how you get on with these.
Okay.
So a few scenarios. My partner has an EU passport. Do I still need to apply for a visa as a Brit / non-EU?
Okay. That partner, is it a civil partner, a married person?
It makes a difference.
It makes a difference. So,
okay.
or is it just a boyfriend or a girlfriend, right? So basically, if it's boyfriend or girlfriend, then it's then the fact that you've got a boyfriend or girlfriend who's a EU citizen doesn't help you at all. If you're married to them or in a civil partnership, that does help. Okay, so then in effect, what would happen is the EU resident comes to Spain. Let's just say they're Swedish, for example. They come to Spain, they get Spanish residency, so they would need EU residency. An EU resident applies for Spanish residence in Spain. So the non-lucrative visa, you apply for it from your home country. The Swedish person here would come to Spain, apply for their EU residency. And then they would have to prove that they intend to live and stay in Spain with their partner, civil partner or spouse. And then the spouse partner can piggyback onto that application. So in answer to your question, the spouse or the civil partner will be able to benefit from EU residency.
Okay, so you living in sin, you've got a choice whether to buy a new hat for your wedding or go through the visa process.
Absolutely. And we've acted for some famous people who've got EU residency. They're married to Brits. We help them with that process, and ultimately, they've got to prove that they can live and work in Spain. But the Brit can benefit from that. And you're absolutely right. If they're living in sin, get married.
That's it. Saves a lot of.
And actually, it is kind of no laughing matter because in Spain, if you inherit property from a friend, you'll pay a lot more inheritance tax than if you were married to them. Okay, so if you're living in sin, definitely get married, because if you on death you wanted your Spanish property that you bought through Massa to go to your partner of 20 odd years and you're not married, they would pay eye-watering amounts of inheritance tax. Whereas, for example, if they were married, there'd probably be no inheritance tax or very little.
That's really good to know. And in fact, without getting too sidetracked, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are buying at the moment, because of the generous inheritance tax possibilities here in the UK, particularly when you are giving the property to your heirs. And
so here in Spain, that there's obviously 17 different regions, and if you donate property to your heirs, so sons, daughters, parents, spouses, then there's the inheritance tax is significantly reduced, and in some places none at all.
No, I think it's a 99% reduction here in the Valencian community, which is the Costa Blanca.
Yeah.
But before I get sidetracked, I'm still got NLV questions for you. How much is the NLV going to cost me?
So I'd say typically for a kind of a single applicant, you're looking around €2,000 in admin costs. And then on top of that, you'll have translations and visa and consulate fees. Okay, so you could be looking at about €3,000.
And if it's a couple, is it double, or are there some savings that can be made?
There are some savings, but you're looking at, I'd say, between €3,000 and €5,000.
Okay,
yeah. But ultimately, it's a case by case basis, and we would confirm costs in writing. And remember, there's a fee paid to the consulate, and that goes up each year as well.
Okay, right. My next question is: I've retired to Spain, but someone offers me a job.
Yeah.
I can't work under my NLV. Is it possible to change the visa to a working visa whilst you're here?
Yeah. So basically, the NLV, you apply for that from your home country, it's granted for a year. So you come to Spain, and then you get the TIE card, and then you renew the visa after 12 months. If you then wanted to work, you would have to apply for a change to that. And there would have to be an offer in writing from this employer. And they would have to prove that they have exhausted all means they've tried to recruit someone of your skill set within the local population, as in the Spanish population, and then they couldn't find anyone, and therefore they want to employ you as a non-European. And as long as they prove that, then they could then make that offer to you and deal with the changeover. So you can then change over from the non-lucrative visa to an employment visa. But it's not easy.
So in theory, yes, but with a number of caveats.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so after the first year, so we've had the NLV, we've lived in Spain for a year, it's time to renew. How do we do that? Where do we do that?
Great question, Paul. So yes, you've applied for your visa from the UK or from your home country as a non-EU resident, because we're acting for lots of Americans and Canadians and other non-Europeans, non-EU citizens coming to Spain. They get their visa, they get the TIE card, and the renewals takes place in Spain. So it happens in Spain, and that after the first 12 months, that's then renewed for 2 years. And then it's renewed for another 2 years, so you get up to 5 years. And once you're up to 5 years, when you come back after the 5th year, you then get long-term residency. Long-term residency doesn't mean you then become a Spanish person or you've got Spanish citizenship. It just means that you've got long-term residence, and you don't have to keep on renewing it every 2 years. But you've got to prove that everything that you had in place for the application, you've got to maintain.
Okay.
So, for example, private medical insurance, you'd still require private medical insurance. Clean criminal record certificate, you'd still need that. You still need sufficient resources in the bank. You still need a Spanish address.
Okay. And if you are of retirement age drawing a state pension, where does that leave you with regards to private medical insurance and needing it or not?
Okay, so that's another great question. So basically, if you're coming from a non-European country that has an agreement with Spain on the pension side, then that person might be able to plug in on pensions and health. They might be able to plug in to the Spanish healthcare system. So, for example, the UK does have that agreement in place, and someone who's of a pensionable age and their beneficiary who might be under the age of retirement can benefit from that. And they would apply for that from the UK, and they can plug into Spanish healthcare system with that.
That's a massive plus.
It's a massive plus.
Massive plus.
And that's mainly for people of retirement age. If you are under retirement age, then you take out private medical insurance for the first year, you renew the visa the second year, and then you can actually you can plug into what's known as the convenio especial. Convenio especial is you pay the Spanish state directly to access their healthcare, but you can only do that after you've been in Spain for 12 months.
Okay. Right, that's all my questions for the NLV. He's really good, right? He knows his stuff. That's why we're super comfortable with him looking after all of our customers. So, but there's other visas.
Right.
There's quite a few, but
Yeah.
the other one that's the hot one at the moment is the digital nomad visa.
Yeah.
Tell us, what is the digital nomad visa?
Okay, so the digital nomad visa was set up with a view for digital nomads to be able to travel freely and come to Spain and obtain a visa and work here. So what Spain was looking for was highly paid, mobile young people to turn up with a laptop, earn hundreds of thousands of euros, and pay Spain tax for that. Okay. Spain, I think we've discussed this before. Bureaucracy is not their forte. If it was the Olympics, there was the Olympics in bureaucracy, they would win. They'd get the gold medal for bureaucracy. So they haven't made it. They haven't made the digital nomad process easy. But the digital nomad process, you can like the NLV, you can apply for that from either your home country, or you can apply for it from here. Okay. But the key requirements are that your employer authorizes you to work in Spain. The employer's had to be in existence for more than a year, and you've had to been working for that employer for at least 3 months. Okay. And there's got to be a commitment to pay social security in Spain.
Okay.
And you would require private medical insurance.
Okay. Because we're getting asked a lot about this at the moment with sort of younger buyers moving here, because there are some quite generous tax incentives.
Well, on the employment side, you can basically, if you're authorised by a company to come to Spain, you can then apply for the Beckham regime. The Beckham regime obviously set up after David Beckham, and it would mean that you would pay 24% on your income generated from your employer in Spain, and all other income outside of the income from your employer is not taxed in Spain. There has been a court case about this recently. The Spanish tax man tried to put their grubby fingers into that, and they lost. Okay. And it's subject to appeal. But it's the Spanish tax office are pretty hard nosed. Yeah,
they don't miss a trick. But But yeah, that's a really interesting one. That if you are lucky to be in a position where your job permits you to work remotely, and you'd rather work remotely from somewhere with beautiful sunshine and culture and food, like where we are, rather than perhaps your spare bedroom, and it's something to consider. Not just the tax advantages, but just the flexibility of living that kind of life. Right, I'm going to hit you with a couple of questions, quick fire questions on the digital nomad visa. What you've covered some of them, but just remind me, what documents are required to apply?
So basically, you need the letter from your employer confirming they authorise you to live and work abroad. Okay, so that's the letter. Then you need a contract of employment, and if you had a kind of 2-year contract, Paul, then the visa would only be for 2 years. Okay. So you need to translate that contract. Then you need a clean criminal record certificate. You need private medical insurance, and that's basically it. Yeah.
And you guys are going to hold the hand all the way through that process.
Digital nomad visas, we very much. The non-lucrative visas, is a much easier process. Mm-hmm. The digital nomad visa, some people come to us with very different and varying scenarios. So we like to speak to them first and discuss with them how their setup is, because a lot of people, basically, what Spain wants to see is that, generally speaking, they want to see that you're employed by this company, and they pay you salary. But then of course, we get into people who are self-employed. They've got companies, so they're employed by their own companies, and that's when it gets more complicated, and we need to look at that carefully.
That was going to be one of my questions about, are you eligible if you are self-employed? So it depends.
It depends. You've got to look at the setup, but basically, what the Spanish authorities want to see is they want to see that you've got. People said to us, "Oh, look, I own a couple. I've got 3 coffee shops. but I can manage them from Spain because I've got 2 managers there. Is that okay? But, you know, technically, when we looked at this originally, Spain wasn't happy with you just having individual customers that could come in. One day they could come in, and the next day they won't. So you don't know if there's not guaranteed income. Yeah. So what they wanted to see is a proper contract in place. So you could have, for example, if you had a contract with X company, what we want to see is that company pays this company money, and then that company employs you and pays you that money. Right. And a lot of people will take earnings. The earnings for the digital nomad visa has got to be around the €33,000 mark.
That was my next question.
There you go, Paul. So we'll talk about taking the bull by the horns, right?
Yeah.
But basically, so a lot of people will take payment in dividends, lower their salary, all that sort of stuff. So this visa, we might speak to someone now, and they might say, "Look, this is what I've got. You know, what do you think? Will I get this visa or not?" We'd say, well, based on what you've got now, you wouldn't. But in 3 or 4 months' time, if you do this and this and this and make changes, you could apply for it then.
So that's all about the preparation.
It is about preparation, yeah.
And private health insurance is mandatory.
Yeah.
Okay. This is really, really good information, right? So, Alex, most importantly, if anybody's out there that wants to make that move to Spain, is going to require residency visa, whether it's non-lucrative, digital nomad visa, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, the best thing is if they go onto the My Law in Spain website or the GetSpanishResidency.com website, go on there and book a consultation. So book a consultation with one of our visa residency specialists, set up that call, go through their personal scenario, and then based on that, we can take the case on or not. Or they go back and make some changes to what they have to do especially on the digital nomad visa. The non-lucrative visa is a lot more straightforward. If they go onto our website, at the top of the right-hand corner of our website, we've got useful information. There's PDFs there about the process. I brought them along here for you today, Paul. All downloadable from our website. Information there about the visa process and the monies that you need in the bank account to prove that you'll be able to be granted the visa.
Fantastic. So that's how you get in touch with Alex. And if you want to get in touch with me and the team here at Massa and discuss your move to Spain or purchase of a property in Spain, you can get in touch with me via the massainternational.com website or on the telephone number on your screen. And we'd be really happy to help you start your journey and get your plans up and running. So thanks very much for this invaluable information.
My pleasure.
And we look forward to working together for many more years.
Absolutely. Likewise.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.